Shalom, everybody, and welcome to Exploring the Motherland on this Friday, January 24, 2025. Exploring the Motherland's purpose is to promote the message of Quest to Unite Africa. Now, you're asking me, what is the mission of Quest to Unite Africa? And that will be to promote critical infrastructure and economic development for the benefit of the African diaspora and the African continent. And we do this through our four main pillar strategies. That would be medical, business, cultural engagement, and technological innovation. The purpose of this show is to keep you up to date on current events that affect our mission and the purpose of our mission, and bring it all to relevance. So, without further ado, let's start. Trump suspends U.S. foreign assistance for 90 days, pending reviews. President Donald Trump signed an executive order temporarily suspending all U.S. foreign assistance programs for 90 days pending reviews to determine whether they aligned with his policy goals, whatever they may be. It was not immediately clear how much assistance would initially be affected by the Monday order, as funding for many programs has already been appropriated by Congress and is obligated to be spent, if not already spent. Consequently, Trump declared that no further United States foreign assistance, wait, let me say it in his voice. No further United Assistance foreign assistance. No, I'm sorry. I'm going to work on my Trump, I promise. No further United States foreign assistance shall be dispersed in a manner that is not fully aligned with the foreign policy of the President of the United States. And of course, as always, I will put the clip, the links to the clip and this article in the chat. And we here have first post talking about the implications of this policy, and then I'll give you my opinion on what that entails.
Hello and welcome. We begin with the key development that the world is trying to wrap its head around. It's the US President Donald Trump and his executive orders. Trump did not waste much time and signed a record number of executive orders on his first day of presidency. The over 200 executive orders signed indicate how US policies under him will look. An executive order is a powerful tool used by a US president which does not require congressional approval. Trump has signed a flurry of such orders on a range of issues, from trade to energy to climate and immigration. Many of them are controversial, and their impact will not just be felt in America. They can change US relationship with the rest of the world, which has reacted with unease. And it seems Trump's to-do list is also not bringing any good news for Africa. Many of Trump's executive orders will have negative impact on Africa. We have a list of some of them. Now, first is the suspension of foreign aid programs. Trump does not see foreign aid in the best interest of the United States. His executive order is freezing disbursement of all U.S. foreign development assistance for 90 days, pending a review. The U.S. is the world's biggest foreign aid donor, and a huge sum is directed toward Africa. Over the 2023 to 24 financial year, the U.S. said it had donated almost $3.7 billion to Africa. Now, this aid contributes to various nations, international organizations, and to TB and malaria as epidemics, as well as to the United Nations agencies. But now all of it will be impacted. From aid cuts, we move to tariffs. Under his America First trade policy, Trump announced plans to establish an external revenue service. It will be used for collecting tariffs, duties, and other foreign trade-related revenue. A major impact could be on AGOA, which provides African countries with duty-free access to the US markets for specific products. The plan is set to be expiring this year, but now there are doubts if Trump would renew it. Countries like South Africa could be majorly impacted, as its key exports like cars, wines, and grapes could be in the crosshairs. Next is the executive order that can impact Africa. It's America's withdrawal from the Paris Climate Agreement. It wasn't surprising that this was among the list. In his first term as well, Trump signed an order to withdraw from the pact, a move the former President Joe Biden promptly reversed on his first day in office in 2021. The US is the world's second largest greenhouse gas emitter, behind only China, and its withdrawal from the climate pact could deal a blow worldwide. Now, speaking of withdrawals, Trump has also signed an executive order for the withdrawal from the World Health Organization. The US is the WHO's top donor and partner. The withdrawal of US funding will negatively impact the organization to identify and respond to emergencies across the world. It could undermine the efforts to bridge global health inequalities and leave African nations at a greater risk. And then comes the declaration of an energy emergency aimed at boosting oil and gas production in the United States. This will impact African oil and gas producing nations like Nigeria and Angola, as cheaper American crude would challenge their market share. Then there are some other orders, like suspending refugee settlement program and ending the birthright citizenship, which could also have a negative impact on Africans. But what could benefit Africa is Trump's quest for mineral dominance. His executive orders also seek to boost domestic mining and minerals processing. American companies, eager to ensure reliable access to rare earth metals and other critical minerals, might increase investment in Africa. This could help to boost jobs and infrastructure. But overall, the opportunities for African nations seem low. How can Africa brace for the Trump impact? Now, for more on this, we have with us Phumlani Majozi, an author and political analyst who is joining us live from Johannesburg, South Africa. Thank you for being with us.
Pleasure. It's great to be here again. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you. Now, Phumlani, how will the suspension of US foreign assistance programs affect African nations that heavily rely on aid for critical sectors such as healthcare, education, and infrastructure? Are there specific countries or regions that will be disproportionately impacted?
Well, no doubt there will be implications of Mr. Trump's actions with respect to that issue. I think this thing, it needs to be thought from a broader perspective, and that is, leaders around the world, many leaders, whether you're talking about in Africa or in other continents, there has been this, way of getting used to American sort of finances or American taxpayers having to pay for many of the global programs. And we are facing the reality now that really nobody should rely on the United States, right? That whether it's in Africa, whether it's in Asia, whether it's in Latin America, in Europe, as nations, we need to get our act together, right? And be able to come together and solve our issues or our problems. And that would include, when it comes to include
Just to stop momentarily, exactly. This brother is correct. You just gotta come together and solve their own problems and stop relying on America. And briefly, I will give my opinion. Trump's decision to temporarily stop aid will not hurt Africa's economy and excuse me, hurt Africa's economic development or critical infrastructure. The time of Western foreign aid dependence is now become a thing of the past now that Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso have proven that Western aid is no longer needed to create beneficial partnerships. Furthermore, I hope I'm not on mute. Okay, I'm not. Furthermore, the AES cultural influence on the continent has shown that the West is a major roadblock to sovereignty and economic freedom. This move by Trump will hurt the United States and the West and will continue to persuade African nations to seek alternatives like BRICS. In addition, influencing African countries to do trade and partnerships amongst themselves. Again, this is an opportunity for our brothers and sisters on the continent to come together and use their own ingenuity that they have been using to help the West become strong, and instead use that ingenuity to help themselves. So this is actually a blessing because now a line is being drawn as to who really has our best interest at heart and who is, going to honestly step up and be that one to say enough is enough. We will just do our own trade and our own strategic partnerships. I mean, does Nigeria and Angola really have to be worried about the U.S. wanting to boost its own petroleum production? No, because we all know that there's much more oil in Africa. Come on now, there's much more oil in Africa. All the resources are in Africa. So literally this policy is just going to shoot themselves in the foot. I don't see how this is beneficial for them. So this is actually a blessing in disguise. And we will see the West continue to do these reactionary and so-called, what you would say, brazen attempts to display this, this facade of Western dominance when we know that it's ending. It's a wrap for them. This is the last thing they can do.
Including things like financing, of projects, because this idea that we'll forever be relying on countries like the US, because it may be Joe Biden last time it was, it's Donald Trump now. He has a different view. Another president is going to come through and have a different perspective. So things may change. So this poses a challenge for African leaders, for everybody in different nations, to do not rely on the US when it comes to financing of such things, or even from a foreign aid perspective. There has to be reform. There has to be wealth being created. And to answer your question specifically, yes, there will be an impact for sure. But then that impact, it's about how do we sort of what we learn from it as developing nations. How do we come together to start our own initiatives and not be reliant on US taxpayers' money or the US government, I should say.
Right. And with Trump's decision to withdraw the United States from the Paris Climate Agreement and the WHO, what are the potential long-term effects on Africa's efforts to combat climate change and to address public health crises like malaria, HIV and AIDS, and possible future pandemics?
Well, when you look at the WHO, the World Health Organization, part of what Mr. Trump has been raising for a while is that WHO is being used by some political powers around the world, specifically in his opinion, China, to advance some political interests, right? it's being used by China and other nations to advance some political interest. And he also says that they mishandled COVID-19, right? Or COVID, I should say, the pandemic. So that is those are his concerns when it comes to the WHO. And he has been critical of this organization for a long time, because remember, the US is the biggest financial backer of the WHO. About 18% of funding comes from the US, of the WHO funding. So that one involves a bit of politics, geopolitics as well. He's concerned that China is using WHO to advance its interests. And that's how we need to think about it. That's how we need to think as well when it comes to the whole situation. The Paris Agreement is also a very interesting one, because you will remember that Mr. Trump is not really into the green agenda. He's not really into that. He's a man who believes in fossil fuels, right? In using the natural resources, different kinds of, energies and fossil fuels. He's not really a believer when it comes to climate change sort of initiatives. Now, I must stress this: for developing nations, especially in Africa, where there is still a heavy reliance on things like coal or fossil fuels, and Trump's presidency might lift that pressure, right? Because Trump is not really pushing very hard when it comes to things like climate change or Paris agreements, as he's withdrawing from that, all those things. So there will be less pressure globally for a push on renewable energies, on green energies, and Africa is going to be part of that as well, experiencing that lifting of pressure for them to be able to probably even focus more on also fossil fuels to try and diversify their energies. And I express that because there have been some concerns by some people that this pushing through forcefully with the green energies and so on, we need to keep in mind that they are developing nations that heavily reliant on fossil fuels, heavily reliant on coal and so on. So how we transition from the old way of coal and fossil fuels into green and renewable energies, it needs to be done in a very smoothly and carefully.
Right. Phumlani, as always, great to have you on the show. Thank you very much for being with us on First Post Africa.
Pleasure.
From
All right, so to conclude this story, I mean, this is kind of funny. It's going to backfire. I mean, they were talking about renewable energy sources, and again, all that and all those renewable green energy sources are in the Congo. All those minerals like cobalt, tungsten, and all those minerals to create different devices and different green battery energies. I mean, if he thinks that, this isolationization policy and, America First policy is going to work, it's just going to backfire. And all the industry in America is already kind of weak. I don't know how they're going to have energy diversity without help from, African resources. So, I mean, but hey, Trump is going to make America great again. It's going to be huge. This is going to be the best energy industry ever. Anyway, Nigeria becomes the 9th BRICS partner country. Like I said, different African countries will seek different alternatives and will start doing, thinking outside the box. I mean, this is just one example. And here we go. As the article reads, Nigeria, Africa's 4th largest economy and the world's 6th most populous nation with over 228 million people, has been formally welcomed into the broader group of BRICS partner states, according to Brazil. the bloc's current rotating president. The foreign minister of Brazil announced on Friday that Nigeria has become the 9th official BRICS partner. The Brazilian government praised Nigeria for its convergent interests with other members of BRICS and its active role in strengthening South-South cooperation and in reforming global governance. BRICS now represents over half the world's population and more than 45% of global GDP, signaling its growing clout on the international stage. It's added that as one of the world's top oil producers, the African country brings significant economic weight to the group. The partnership status allows Nigeria to participate in BRICS meetings and events, but does not grant full membership privileges like voting rights.
Nigeria has officially joined the BRICS bloc as a partner country. This announcement was made by Brazil, the current chair of BRICS, on January 17, 2025. With this inclusion, Nigeria becomes the 9th partner country, joining Belarus, Bolivia, Cuba, Kazakhstan, Malaysia, Thailand, Uganda, and Uzbekistan. This partner country category was established during the 16th BRICS summit held in Kazan, Russia, in October 2024. The Brazilian government welcomes the Nigerian government's decision, the statement read, emphasizing the alignment of interests between Nigeria and the alliance, originally comprising Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. BRICS has evolved to include a partner country category established during the 16th BRICS summit in Kazan in October 2024. Nigeria's entry into the alliance as a partner country had been speculated since the summit, where Cheburu Obiyi, the spokesperson for Nigeria's Ministry of Foreign Affairs at the time, confirmed the nation's acceptance into the group. Despite this recognition, Nigeria continues to advocate for full membership in the alliance. At the G20 summit in New Delhi, India, in September 2023, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu highlighted Nigeria's indispensable role in global economic discussions. Nigeria is poised, willing, and able to be a major player in this family of the G20 and in shaping a new world, Tinubu said, emphasizing that without Nigeria, the group remains incomplete.
I thank the government and good people of Abu Dhabi for their generous hospitality and foresight in organizing this event. This week, leaders from all over the world
Okay, so again, Western dominance is a thing of the past. BRICS is, you heard them say, 45% of the world's GDP is within BRICS. And they have African nations joining where, African nations have all the resources. So I don't understand how, the West can really come back from this. And obviously we know that Tinubu, whatever, at this point, we know that he's playing both sides of the fence because he's still, a huge political figure and leader within ECOWAS, but we see ECOWAS's influence diminishing on the continent. So again, where is this, this vestige of Western dominance is continuing to diminish, and Africa is now one that holds all the geopolitical power and resources, and their economic growth and development is the future. All the resources are there to create a totally different economic environment where they could thrive, and other nations want a piece of that. of course, and the West is actively losing that, partnership and that influence. So they're in trouble, for lack of a better term.
Thank you for staying with us on The World Now. Earlier, we told you that Nigeria has now become a partner of the BRICS group. Well, joining me for this sharing news on Nigeria's partnership with the BRIC nations is a policy analyst, Chris Akio, who joins me from Delta State. It's good to have you join us.
Good afternoon.
Right, the membership in BRICS could provide Nigeria with access to new markets, technologies, and investment opportunities. But there have been concerns about increased competition and potential losses in certain industries. But to you, do you consider this a drawback or a potential move for Nigeria?
Okay, so yes, capitalist investors around the country will feel that way. But for the general good, I think it's one of the best things that has happened by expanding our frontiers for economic growth and access to global funding that will not muzzle our future. Being a member of BRICS expands the frontier for Nigeria to access more, even funding for our infrastructure that will even help local production. So there are insulating parameters in our country that allows for homegrown economy to develop. So I don't think it's going to affect Nigeria negatively, but positively instead. So it's a welcome development. They expand the frontier for us to be able to do more for our people as a country. And I commend Tinubu for this bold step.
All right, I'm going to take you up in a minute about the concerns on the potential of affecting Nigeria negatively in terms of Nigeria's overdependence on oil. But talk to us about how it's likely to impact Nigeria's status and its role in African regional organizations such as the African Union and ECOWAS, considering the recent exit of some of these member nations from these unions.
Okay, so basically, BRICS itself has its members in other organizations. I think all members of BRICS are in the G20 group and UN. The regional organizations. I know Brazil is with the Latin American group, they're also with the American. And so Nigeria joining BRICS would just be a plus for BRICS and a plus for Nigeria, considering our population, economy, and our resources also. And then the fact that we also will have a partnership that allows for growth. So it will not affect our membership of AOU or of the EU or the AU or even the United Nations as well, because that's just a plus. And what BRICS stands for is not to compete, but to add on to what is existing. So I don't think that people should really truly worry about what will happen to us with other organizations like ECOWAS. By partnering organizations with ECOWAS states, those who pulled out, and they formed their own ECOWAS still standing. The same thing, adding Nigeria into BRICS will not stop us from being members of ECOWAS, except we choose to work with it. But in the meantime, it is the economic benefit that we're looking at, political influence that it brings to the table. Puts Nigeria before the world as a more serious nation. It also helps us to be able to access more from internal growth and the expansion of economic policy. It also provides a larger space for partnership with other countries. And of course, if you look at the countries in the BRICS nation, they are a little more flexible with their policy, and there's some level of respect for member states. So if you're a member of BRICS, you tend to be seen as an equal. Selection processes by consensus. There are no veto powers in that.
Yeah, sorry about the audio. I'm trying to enlarge it and put the captions on so you could hear what he's saying.
And I think that Nigerian entry to that would not belittle our roles in ECOWAS states.
All right, talk to us about the prospects this brings for Nigeria. Brazil, which currently holds the rotating presidency of the bloc, in a statement added that Nigeria brings significant economic weight to this group, even as one of the world's top producers of oil. But is this likely to help in reducing our dependence on crude?
Okay, so it will now depend on how our government decides to use the benefit that accrues to us being a member of that organization. Now, I'm sure that we're born in there because we know that we're strong in Africa and that they are also looking for markets in Africa and businesses. They're also looking for areas to invest that have potential, and Nigeria has that. Now, if corruption does not kill the interest that we have, we should be able to access funds for infrastructure, to build more refineries, to build more roads, to build more factories that will provide economic growth for our country and also mutual benefit for our country. Because if nearness to raw material is one of the if Nigeria has a raw material that BRICS need, I think that. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead. We can hear you. Go ahead.
In the area of iron, steel, in the area of iron, steel, gold, and all of that. If we invest those resources that we're coming into this partnership properly, we'll not only open the frontiers for international partnership of big markets for Africa, for HP, for the rest of it. So yes, it brings a lot of benefits to the table. Our role in there is such that we are a big economy in Africa, and they know it, and such that if they invest their resources in this economy, then we can provide for the rest.
All right, Chris, I agree with you on the fact that there are a lot of benefits in this partnership. It all depends on how we, harness these partnerships, these recent partnerships. Thank you for joining us, policy analyst Chris Ekiyo. Thank you for joining us at this time.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Until the inaugural address of the U.S. president.
All right. So basically, he was saying that this is going to be a benefit because they will have more options for funding to create more economic development and critical infrastructure. You could watch that video on your own with your own audio. That's a misstep by me. Sorry about that. A lot of times, sometimes the audio isn't the best, but we work with what we got. And, that's why technological innovation is needed in the continent, so we could have, stronger bandwidth and better audio, so we could have our voices heard and spread this information a lot better. And, that's just, something that could be worked on. So the next article, protests against AES withdrawal from ECOWAS, France strategic game. So last week, if you were watching the show, President Ibrahim Traoré was talking about how France is, strategizing how they're going to get their influence back on the continent. And he was talking about how they were using different, strategies, again, for lack of a better term. And we see here with the story that there's people within the diaspora who they are willing to, they have a price and they're willing to continue promoting the message of the West and the relevancy of the West to enforce these policies and this influence. So we see these strategies, but we know it's not going to work because of, this is now the minority, as we see that most of our brothers and sisters are waking up to this, false Western foreign aid and how it is a roadblock and how it is no longer serving them. So as the article reads, recent protests in Paris organized by representatives of Malian, Nigerian, and Burkina Faso diasporas, wow, that isn't a coincidence, have raised questions about their true objective and organizers. Demonstrations opposing the withdrawal of the AES from ECOWAS suggest potential external coordination, particularly by France. Is it a coincidence that similar protests were planned in Paris and Abidjan, that is in Côte d'Ivoire, or Ivory Coast, a traditional ally of Paris in Africa? Experts believe that protests in Paris and Abidjan could be part of a broader French strategy. Paris's goal appears to be to cast doubt on the legitimacy of the AES decisions, fabricate the illusion of internal discord, and strengthen its international standing. The protest against AES withdrawal from ECOWAS reflects France's multifaceted approach to reclaiming influence in Africa, from covert operations to public opinion manipulation. Its actions aim to undermine the sovereignty of Sahel nations. Reports suggest that France continues its intelligence operations and support for opposition groups while leveraging diaspora and media to influence public opinion. That's why exactly you saw why the AES created a cultural initiative to ban these Western media outlets and to create their own media outlets and take control of their own public press, because they know that these Western media outlets are undermining their sovereignty and skewing different stories and skewing different political events, or geopolitical geopolitical events that are going on in the AES for their benefit, when we know that what the AES is doing is for the benefit of their people. So let's watch the videos, and again, I'll put the links in the article.
La politique se régénère. La politique n'est pas l'échec au Sahel. Voilà. C'est la facilité. C'est l'échec de la reproduction des élites qui est le problème au Sahel. C'est ça le vrai problème. Non à la sortie du Mali de la CEDEAO. Non à la sortie du Mali de la CEDEAO. Je fais partie de l'opposition politique malienne en exil et je suis venu apporter mon soutien à l'opposition politique en exil en France qui demande le retour à l'ordre constitutionnel normal dans notre pays, le Mali, le retrait.
We are also calling for the transfer of power from the junta to democratically elected institutions. I'm also here to express support for all political detainees, all those imprisoned in the jails of the military junta in Mali. And I am here to show our opposition to Mali's withdrawal from ECOWAS,
qui est tout à fait contraire
aux principes du
panafricanisme développé par notre État depuis
l'indépendance
et ce retrait de la CEDEAO
This withdrawal from ECOWAS currently underway
mais actuellement sans la
has been carried out without the necessary constitution of the nation's active forces and without referendum to ask the entire Malian people whether or not we should remain in ECOWAS.
Aujourd'hui, nous sommes ici pour dénoncer la présence russe au Nord Mali, généralement dans toute l'Afrique, qui sont là aujourd'hui uniquement pour exploiter les ressources en...
Okay, as this gentleman says, we are here to denounce the Russian presence in Mali, and more generally in all Africa. Russia's only there to exploit resources by taking advantage of insecurity. We also condemn, or we regret, the inaction of the international community, which does nothing to try to alleviate the suffering of the people. Of course, we all support the continued membership of the countries of the Confederation of the AES and ECOWAS, because we know what awaits if we ever leave ECOWAS. We know that it will restrict our freedom of movement, and limit our ability to act in West African countries. So we wish for these 3 countries to remain in ECOWAS, which is an important institution for all West Africa. Down with the junta, free Niger, down with coup leaders wherever they are. Okay, so you heard all that nonsense. Obviously, they were paid to, propagate all that nonsense. Obviously, we know that this is a ploy of France and ECOWAS as a whole to continue their influence by getting whoever is willing to promote their message and continue the lies. And the notes I wrote for this. This move by, this will be, there will always be useful people for the French who will promote the message of colonialism. Unfortunately, the African diaspora is being used as a strategy to help bring back French influence to the continent of Africa. This protest will do little to nothing to stop the surge of the AES. The French will continue to try the same tactics, and they will fail miserably. The AES and the countries that follow their lead will continue to be closer to economic progression and the development of major critical infrastructure, as we have seen. Again, the AES do security initiatives, the AES doing media press and public press initiatives to take back their own, release of information and their dissemination of information to help strengthen nationalism and to, dissuade all this propaganda and to stop the West and France undermining their own sovereignty.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. If this is your first time, my name is Mamri, and you are very welcome. This video is another unusual one. Yes, this video is about demonstration, protest. I don't know how to call it. In France, in support of the AES, they are happy that they are leaving the ECOWAS. So they are celebrating and telling France people or citizens why things are going on between the 2 countries. They are telling them President Macron is not telling them the truth, but this is the truth. Anyway, while working on this video, I came across another one that they are against the AES. It's about 2 minutes, so I added to this one. Families, listen and watch. I'll be back. Thank you so much. There's a lot of noise in it, so I put music instead. I'll be back, families. Thank you so much. And the music as well, because of copyright, I need to change it. Thank you. I hope you understand.
The French react to the world of the French without consulting them. French leaders are reacting to the world of the French without consulting them. The French today don't know that Macron's government is supporting something called the WEDC. The WEDC is an organization lies list. The leash, hello. It's made so. Don't be surprised when you see on TV that we're out for a delivery of X or Y. The only reason we're here is because we're seen as the other people in the world. That's the only reason. Do you want a free, independent Africa that talks about colonialism? Do you know the comrade? ECOWAS had predicted the sanction. It was Macron's government that had predicted the sanction that killed the peoples of the Sahel before SADC made its decision. This means that SADC is nothing but them. An instrument. Colonialism? We're out now. I wanted to let you know. Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger are 3 countries with sufficient wealth. We all agree. For years. These riches do not benefit the African people. They have built poverty in Africa, piece by piece. And when we come to collect what's stolen from us there, we're hunted down like used socks. We say no to all that now. I know, I see, I know the real problem of AES. I can see it. Now we're going to strike a fatal blow. A fatal course for the CDAO. Close the stitches, close the point, raise your arms. Give a fatal blow from above. I can't hear you. We're going to kill the CADD. No, that's not how it's done. One fatal blow and CADD will die, one fatal blow. So train the strokes well, train, go, 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 train, install the base. Abalasses de Hort. It's up there. Please, we'll mark a minute's silence. We'll stop here. Didier, please, the national anthem. The national anthem. That's the to make our money.
Again, family, thanks for bearing with me. Honestly, there's a lot of, what you want to call it, not economic, what am I going to say? There's a lot of information that's being suppressed. So to the best of my ability, I'm trying to find videos that cover what's going on. I'll just leave the rest of this video in the link. You see it there for you to follow along, because it may be hard to do now. It's just, we just do the best we can with what we have, because again, they are actively suppressing the news that's going on in West Africa, and we will, adjust accordingly. And thank you for bearing with me, but these next 2 stories will be a lot more fluent, and we will hear definitely a lot more coherent audio. That is short of, that's a misstep again, but thanks for bearing with me. Again, this is just what Traore has said and warned us about, that the French are still within, West Africa, and they will do everything to continue to propagate their influence, and they will continue to be using people who are willing to side with them, and we will see that their efforts will, be for naught, and they will continue to, keep taking L's, because again, the AES and other countries leaving ECOWAS or flirting the idea of leaving ECOWAS is continually to be put on display, and ECOWAS is pretty much losing, and this is all they can do. Togo to open to joining West African rival group. Togo, another nation under ECOWAS, is, displaying interest in leaving ECOWAS because they see what's happening in the AES and are inspired. And this article reads, where is this? Togo's foreign minister has hinted that his country could join the Alliance of Sahel States (AES), which was recently formed by military rulers of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger after they decided to withdraw from ECOWAS. The foreign minister of Togo stated, "It's not impossible." The diplomat said in response to a question about whether Togo plans to join AES, adding, "It is the decision of the President of the Republic." He further encouraged people to ask Togolese citizens if they support joining the Alliance of Sahel States, suggesting that their response would likely be affirmative. By strengthening ties with Togo, the landlocked alliance of AES countries could gain access to the sea through the Togolese coast and the port of Lomé, facilitating the import and export of goods. Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, governed by military regimes against France, announced the intention to withdraw from ECOWAS is now permanent and claiming it's being manipulated by the former colonial power.
Togo joining the AEC. This is great news, fellas. Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali, then Togo. Things are getting bigger, fellas. Let's watch this. What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing good. It's a beautiful day. Thank you very much for stopping by. It's always a great pleasure. Thank you, fellas. I mean, this is the right place. You know, you want to know about Africa, you're at the right place. You want to know what's happening in Uganda, you are at the right place. You want to know what's happening in Kenya, Tanzania, you are at the right place. You want to know what's happening in Nigeria, you are at the right place. You want to know what's happening in South Africa, even though many people don't like it when you talk about South Africa. But I see you, fellas. Thank you for all the South Africans that are on the channel. You're very much appreciated. I know we won't always, agree on everything, and that's okay. That's fine, provided we do things we respect the boundaries of, don't forget the good things people say when they say one thing you don't like. Okay, let's go. So we are at Togo. Here's Togo. Here's a map. I'm going to show you the map because I know a lot of you don't know geography. Yes, here's Togo. Beautiful place, lovely people. I've been there before. Great culture. Amazing. They have a lot of beliefs, African belief. You heard about voodoo? You usually say voodoo, but it's called voodoo. This is voodoo in Togo. You're going to call it many names. Some people say it's witchcraft. Some people say a lot of things, but their spiritual belief. They believe in these entities. They believe in many things. They believe there is a god of iron. Okay, the god of iron is the one that causes accident. Okay, they believe if somebody doesn't like you, or if you happen to steal something from somebody and somebody cries to the god of iron against you, my brother, you're going to have a very bad accident. You're most likely not going to come out alive, because apparently the god of iron loves blood. There is a god of fertility. He has a big wood. I'm not going to say anything, I'm telling you, and don't try to go open it. Anyway, let's get back on track. Great people have spent some of the most beautiful time. I mean, that's why I always encourage you, fellas. Go see the next African country. Go visit. Don't sit there saying, my country, me and my country, I ate white bread with... You need to see... In order for you to understand the world, you need to understand what's happening in the next country. Not from things you see on TV. Okay, it's not accurate. All right, let's get back on track. Great people, lovely people. Okay, now, these are the three countries that are the superstars in Africa. Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. You know them. Why? Because they decided to kick out the colonialists out of the country. How do they have the colonialists? Well, the colonialists came before 1960. They took over Africa. As you can see, these are French African-speaking countries. How did they become French African-speaking countries? Because France, here's France, okay? France came all the way to Africa and took over all these countries. How did they do it? With weapons. They had gunshots. At the time, Africans did not have gunshots. Therefore, they had the superiority in terms of armament. That is how they unalived many African people and took these lands. Now, could they have done it by themselves? Well, no. Why? Because some Africans were corrupt. They were promised money and success and many other things. Those Africans are the one that guided these French people into taking over all these countries. And another reason, because those Africans didn't like the neighbor. You know, you don't like the neighbor. You're ready to make a deal with the devil so you can get the neighbor overthrown. Not saying French are the devil. I'm just giving you an example. Okay. Anyway, now these three countries with these leaders, you can see their soldiers say they don't want colonialism anymore. Why? Because the French, after independence in 1960, made all these French-speaking countries sign a piece of paper saying, we can still keep our military on your ground, on your land. And number two, we're going to be printing your money, your currency. Yes, this currency right here. You heard me correctly. The money that's used in these French African countries, most of these are Western African countries, it's called the CFA franc. Now, the CFA franc is still being printed in France before being sent to Africa for African use. But you cannot buy a piece of bread with the CFA franc in France. So it has no value in France. Yeah. But it's millions in Africa. Now, get me, once I'm printing your money, I can easily get your economy going up and going down whenever I like, right? Anyway, now, the big question was asked to the foreign minister of Togo, whether Togo would consider joining the AEC, which is the Alliance of States of Sahel. And the minister was very clear. He says, for me, it's not impossible, but it's the decision of the president of the republic first. It's also a decision of the Togolese parliament. If parliament decide that Togo must join AEC countries, why would Togo not do so? I will surprise you. Ask the Togolese population if Togo want to join the AEC, and you will see their answer. They will tell you yes. So yes. Fellas, let me remind you here, these three countries were at some point blocked from doing any business. I can explain. You can see they are inland countries, so they have no border to the sea. The sea is very important. Many people don't know that. Why is the sea important? The sea is very important because you need the sea to do business. Okay, imagine you want to buy goods coming from China, a lot of it. Okay, cars and stuff like that. There are two ways to bring the cars and the stuff. You can either bring it by aeroplane, okay, which is going to be very, very expensive and very limited in terms of capacity, or you can bring it through the sea with ships, okay? But the ships is big. You can bring a lot of things. Now, when you have the sea, a coast or side in your country, it makes it easy for you. But the countries that inland locked countries have to cooperate with the countries that are on board of the sea so they can get their stuff moving. However, all these countries down here, part of the ECOWAS, don't like these three countries. Why don't they like them? They don't like them because they toppled their president. They changed the president in an undemocratic way. They used weapons to do it. But did they unalive the president? No, they did not unalive the president because they came in peace. Their goal was to just take over the country because they felt like those presidents were not doing what they were supposed to do as president. They were not looking after the people. Now, these other countries were upset, especially the president. Why? Because they felt like if we allow them to do that, they're going to be inspiring our population into rising up against us. That's how a dictator thinks. Now, let me protect my power. The best way to protect my power, I need to punish the guy that just attacked his leader, even though the leader was not necessarily a nice person. Now, that's what happened. When these countries blocked those three countries from exporting and importing, they were clapping hands saying, okay, we're going to see how they're going to survive. They're going to suffer. Okay, within a week or so, the population will be very angry and they will come down the street and they will topple them. Okay? Now, that's never happened. Why did that never happen? Because Malian people supported their brand new government. They were behind them. They say, hey, we've had enough too. We're going to support you. Now, in the meantime, Togo played the middle ground when these countries were trying to attack Niger and destroy. Togo said, okay, we can be the middleman. Okay? Can we sit down and never talk? Whilst these other French-speaking African nations who are slaves of the French, sorry to say that, but most of them don't even know their own languages. They will laugh at you if your French is broken. Okay? They will laugh at you even more if you speak in your own language.
He is not kidding. I literally had a layover in Togo, and I have to say, if you see the coast as we were coming into Togo was so beautiful. It was like the most beautiful shoreline I've ever seen in my life. And I just felt, at home. And you know, but again, there they literally almost 90% of the time speak French. And it's kind of weird how, you know, some are just like, you don't speak French, blah, blah, blah. You know, because, you know, obviously French is the language there, but I met some Burkinabe brothers and sisters who spoke English and weren't as, you know, stringent about that, and you know, they didn't frown upon it. But again, you know, that is the effect of colonialism.
That's how sad that is. If you speak a good French, they go, "Oh, you sound very intelligent." Crazy. Anyway, get back on track. Now, the Togolese went to see these three countries and say, "Let's have a talk in a very nice way." Okay, and that created, built the rapprochement between Togo and all these countries. And to the benefit of Lomé, now Niger is already using Togo's port to export. Niger used to send things through Benin. Can you see the map? That's Niger. Here's Benin. Most of the things coming from Niger to be exported had to go through Benin. But Benin president said he doesn't want that. He blocked the way. And Niger have petrol, a lot of oil that they used to export. At some point, Benin refused to let Niger export the oil because they were not talking to each other, like little girls. But Togo said, okay, we cool, you know, and Niger is now exporting things past Togo. Now, that's negative for Benin because now Benin has lost business, you know, because when I'm doing things through your port, I'm certainly paying some money. When your people are coming through my people to steal bananas, you know, carrots and small things, food.
All right, for the purpose of time, I put the link to the other video. And again, this is just another blow to ECOWAS because they are experiencing a colonial, you know, power dynamic where their economic group doesn't have the influence it once had, and now other countries see the partnership of the AES and how strong and progressive it is, and obviously all the other West African countries are, you know, going to be interested in joining. I mean, Ivory Coast has already said they would kick out, not have said they would, they're already kicking out French troops from the security pacts that they already signed from the past. Now that they see the AES, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger coming together, they now are inspired to do the same. Okay, the last article, Alliance of Sahel States to form 5,000 troop military unit. And the article reads, 3 junta-ruled countries in Africa's Sahel region will join forces to create 5,000-strong unit to fight jihadist violence that has for years plagued the nations. Officials said on Tuesday, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali will create a unified force within weeks. Niger's defense minister said, "We are in the same place. We face the same type of threats, especially the threat of criminal groups. This is new, original, and will provide security for our territories and for our people." The 3 countries already carried out joint anti-jihadist operations, especially in the region where their borders meet, where the attacks are the most frequent. After their coups, the 3 nations expelled French forces that has been assisting the battles against jihadists. Well, they have on, you know, they say they have, but they've later learned that they were the cause of the jihadism and they were stoking it and funding it. And now these three countries have opted out of ECOWAS regional organization, deeming it unhelpful for their requirements, and have sought new alliances with countries like Russia, which aim to increase their presence in the region. And this is an example of creating a beneficial strategic partnership that helps foster economic progression and critical infrastructure development. Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger realize they have a common enemy and a common problem. That problem is security from jihadism on their border. In addition, the common enemy is French intervention and collusion within their borders, undermining their sovereignty. They continue to seek economic freedom and a right to control their own borders. This military pact partnership continues to strengthen their efforts to instill a cultural standard of upholding sovereignty and seeking economic progression.
3 junta-ruled countries in Africa's Sahel region will join forces to create a 5,000-strong unit to fight the jihadist violence that has for years plagued the nations. Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali will create a unified force within weeks, Niger's Defense Minister Salifou Modi said on Tuesday. The three nations are former French colonies where the military deposed civilian administration in putches between 2020 and 2023. Each of the three countries has been wrecked by attacks by jihadists allied with either Al-Qaeda or Islamic States for decades, violence that governments have not been able to eradicate despite help from French forces. Following the coups, the three countries distanced themselves from France and last year formed a confederation, the Alliance of Sahel States. The three countries already carry out joint anti-jihadist operations, especially in the region where their borders meet and the attacks are the most frequent. They all expelled French forces, opted out of ECOWAS, and sought new alliances with countries like Russia that are keen to increase their presence in the region after the coups.
The Alliance of Sahel States, or the AES, originated in September 2023 as a mutual defense pact between Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger after leaving the West African Economic Bloc, ECOWAS. Since then, several meetings have been held to lay out structures and develop strategies to operationalize the alliance and assert their sovereignty against increasing calls for their return to the bloc. At the weekend's ministerial meeting in Bamako, Mali, officials tried to iron out a strategy for 2025. Their priority actions include the creation of a regional investment bank, the strengthening of transport and security infrastructure, and the promotion of free movement of people and goods.
Ministers selected and approved the draft additional protocol establishing a travel document of the Confederation of Sahel States called e-passport. They also reviewed and approved the draft additional protocols establishing an identity document called AES Identification Card and instructed experts to continue their reflections with a view to finalizing the development pillar's own draft texts. To improve transport infrastructure and make sure the countries of the Confederation have enough energy and food, ministers agreed on the plan for building the railway and the technical documents.
The ministers also asked different specialists at the meeting to draft a common strategy for, among others, the development of agricultural projects.
We have set deadlines for the actions we plan to take. There are deadlines of 9 months for some, 3 months for others, and even 15 days for the community levy, for example. These deadlines must be respected.
The ministers did not, however, discuss whether they would leave the CFA franc, the regional currency which is backed by the French treasury and used by 14 former French colonies in Africa. However, there was progress in the area of financing, which experts say is key to development.
Our states are working, and the first vision of our confederation is the economic development of our areas. Our bank is called a Development and Investment Bank. So it is the question of economic development that is our priority at this time. Because when we look at most of our countries, they are undeveloped. Our activities are well planned, and I think our bank should be operational in 9 months. For the moment, our priority is economic development.
Following their withdrawal from ECOWAS, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger have decided to assert their sovereignty in military, political, security, and monetary matters and to partner with whomever they wish. Their final exit from ECOWAS is scheduled for Wednesday of next week. Joy Kiruki Juma, CGTN.
All right. Thank you for tuning in, family, and bearing with me. I just hope everyone is inspired and sees, the importance of us coming together, of creating strategic partnerships and initiatives that help our brothers and sisters on the continent, and how we see that Africa is the future and that Western dominance is no longer relevant and is a thing of the past. Thank you for joining me. Enjoy your Shabbat and your weekend, and shalom.